Y'all? It's your boy Charles and Israel, checking in. Listen, we are checking out the late great comedian Dick Gregory's book, Defining Moments in Black History, reading between the lines. You know, Dick Gregory, he did not hold his tongue, man. Rest in peace to the OG of comedy. So let's go ahead and get into this book, and I'm going to come back with my reaction.
Medgar Evers' murder. Medgar. There was nobody like him. He was almost in a separate category of human being. So kind, so humble, and so dedicated to the movement and to his people. He was born in 1925 in Mississippi and wasn't but 37 when he was murdered in 1963.
That's it?
But in his short life, he led the Mississippi NAACP, fought for voting rights and voter registration, and inspired a whole lot of folks. Being with him, I fell in love with the church movement in the South, the voting rights campaign down there, the whole thing. That movement got so strong. You know, that didn't sit right with racists. So one night when I was down there, I said to Medgar, "Man, I think something's going to happen. It doesn't feel right." White folks had strange looks on their faces. Before something could happen, though, Medgar called me. I was staying at a black minister's house and said, "Man, you need to call home. Your wife just called." I said I'd do it later. He said, "No, it's important, man." I told him, "I think the white folks are getting ready to throw a bomb or something, and I ain't leaving nowhere." Medgar knew that my son Richard Jr., 2 months old, had just died, but he didn't want to tell me. He just wanted me to call home. He said, "Greg, your son's sick." I said, "So what?" "Greg, he's dead." I flew home to Chicago to be with my wife. She was in shock. Eventually, I was too. But soon after, I went back to Mississippi. Now, here's how the universe works. My plane back to Mississippi got in late, and I had to perform in Chicago later, so I had to leave Medgar's house earlier than planned. Well, Byron Della Beckwith was waiting to kill us at Medgar's house. Della Beckwith was a member of the White Citizens Council, which had sprung up after the U.S. Supreme Court said in 1954 that school segregation was unconstitutional. The only reason I'm not dead is that my son died and my flight back to Mississippi was delayed. Before I left Medgar that day, I hugged him and said, "Man, I'm sorry I don't get to die with you. I love you, man." He knew he was going to be killed. He even knew who was going to do it. Della Beckwith went free after 2 trials in 1964 when all-male, all-white juries failed to convict him. Now let me fast forward. How did Della Beckwith get money? Well, his daddy was a postmaster. Now President Kennedy, out of all the land to buy for a post office, bought his land for 50 grand. That's how Della Beckwith had the money to pay. Kennedy was one of these low-down dogs whom black folks don't know anything about, but like because they can't spot a racist when he's smiling and putting on a big show of loving black folks. They can't tell the difference between a good white person and a bad one. Why do I say Kennedy was a low-down dog? When they cut off food stamps in Mississippi in retaliation for voter registration drives, it had Kennedy's blessing. When that happened, I went back to Mississippi and said, "I'll pick up the tab. I'll send 7 tons of food every 2 weeks. I'll pay for it." And the Kennedy boys, and I didn't know this until Kathy Hughes and TV1 did a show called Unsung, and I didn't know where she got the tapes. You can hear them saying, "We've got to send food stamps again because that Dick Gregory is getting too much worldwide attention." But let me fast forward again. Medgar's widow, Myrlie Evers Williams, pushed and pushed until she got a new trial for Medgar's murderer. They tried Della Beckwith again in 1994. This time he went to prison where he died at age 80 in 2001. A lot of evil went down in Mississippi, but some good happened too, because of one man, Medgar Evers. 4 little girls killed in a Birmingham church bombing in 1963. Carol Denise McNair was 11 years old when she died on September 15, 1963, and Addie Mae Collins, Carol Robertson, and Cynthia Wesley weren't but 14. All 4 of them were murdered, and if their murder wasn't the lowest act ever committed in this country, I don't want to think about what was.
Wow, man. This is deep. There's more to come. This is a really good book, man. Defining moments in history, reading between the lines. The late great comedian Dick Gregory. Um, wow, that's crazy. So wow, that's crazy because his son passed away. If he would have been in that car with Medgar Evers, he would have been. Wow, that's crazy. So it's almost like God took his son. I guess you believe if you believe in God, but I believe in God. It's almost like something higher power took his son so he could live. That's crazy though. He would have been in that car. I did not know that, man. But you can check out this book on Audible. It's called Defining Moments in Black History, Reading Between the Lines, by the late great Dick Gregory, comedian, legend. Like this is the guy who Richard Pryor looked up to. You know what I'm saying? Like people in Carlin looked up to. You know what I'm saying? These are like icons. You know what I'm saying? They looked up to this guy. So he passed away, I believe, 2 years. I think he passed away during the pandemic, if I'm mistaken. He lived a long life. He's about 98 years old. So he lived a good long life. You know, he was really into health and stuff. So, anyway, man, what y'all think about this, man? Leave your comments and subscribe to Charles and World. Appreciate it.